Good evening. It is 6:30. Members of council are assembled when you're ready to begin.
Thank you, Don. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order this committee of the whole meeting of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores. Welcome all members and everyone joining us in the room this evening and everyone joining us by the live stream. We're glad everybody's with us. Second item on the agenda is the land acknowledgement. I will read that this evening. Excuse me. We acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which consists of the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash unceded First Nation. We understand this land holds immense significance to the people of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. We appreciate those who live and work alongside us today and who continue the traditions of their ancestors as stewards of the land we are privileged to inhabit. We thank them for the contributions they have made in both caring for the land and in shaping this community. We commit to truth and reconciliation, to acknowledging the truth about what happened to Indigenous peoples because of colonization, and to reconciliation, which begins with each and every one of us. On Monday, we will observe the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, a day of reflection, learning, and commitment to understanding the profound impact of residential schools on the Indigenous peoples of Canada. In Saugeen Shores, we are dedicated to building meaningful relationships with Indigenous communities, particularly the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, on whose traditional territory we live. We recognize the truths of our shared history and commit to listening, learning, and working towards meaningful reconciliation. To show our support, we have also flown the Every Child Matters flag on our community flagpole out front of this building for the month of September. On Monday, that flag, along with the Canadian flag, will be flown at half-mast. We encourage all residents to wear orange clothing on Monday and to take part in meaningful discussion about the effects of residential schools and the legacy they have left behind. Together, we can build a future grounded in respect, understanding, and reconciliation with the First Nations that enrich Canada. Let the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation be a day for action, healing, and hope. As a local government and public organization, we are dedicated to learning about Indigenous culture, to fostering a better relationship with First Nations and their people, and we commit ourselves to actions that move us forward on a path to healing along with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. Section 3 on the agenda is disclosures of pecuniary interest. Ask any member if you have one of those you'd like to declare at this time. Seeing none, of course, you can do that anytime if you need to. We have no additions, deletions, or amendments. We do not have any open forum requests. So we're on to delegations, and we have 3 delegations this evening. Actually, the first 2 are presentations by council, and then the third item is a delegation. So to begin, we'll do item 6.1, which is a community watch recognition along with the Police Services Board. So on behalf of council and the Police Services Board, Police Services Board chaired Deputy Mayor Diane Huber and myself are pleased to welcome the members of the Saugeen Shores Community Watch leaders and volunteers here today to present them with recognition certificates in appreciation of their tireless efforts and contributions over many years in helping to keep our community safe. Although the program has been suspended, we offer our deepest gratitude for all the Saugeen Shores Community Watch leadership and volunteers have contributed to our community. The Community Watch program has been a patrolling volunteer civilian organization working in cooperation with the Saugeen Shores Police Service to reduce acts of vandalism and crime, helping to keep our community a safer place in which to live. And so on behalf of council and the community, thanks to all of the volunteers for their service. And I have a list of volunteers here. I'm going to read them all. I know we only have a couple with us, I think, in the room this evening, but I'm going to read the whole list and we'll ask the members who are with us to come forward, and the Deputy Mayor and I will meet you out front to give you your certificates. So we have Jolene Schultes, Carol Wahlberg, Ann Holman, Doug Longmire, Nancy Wanch, Don Nicholson, Sherry Nicholson, Rebecca Schlorf, Lucas Jorg, Chris Rohde, Shirley Stewart, Michael Howe, Skylar Pomeroy, Melanie Lever, Randy Martin, Jolene Nichols, Monica Christia, Edward Christia, and Joel Schultes. So we'll have those who are with us come forward and yeah. Oh, sure. The Deputy Mayor wants to go. The Deputy Mayor.
I just wanted to add that the list that the mayor read is the list of the most recent volunteers with Community Watch. If we go back to the beginning of the program, there's probably close to 100 people that should be on the list, but that was a bit of an extensive list to read tonight. So there's many, many more volunteers who've contributed to the success of Community Watch than just the names that were read. Thank you.
Very good. So come on forward. Okay, so thank you again to our Community Watch volunteers. The second recognition that we have this evening is to the SB Dance Studio. So this evening, we have invited Ms. Sandra Belanger to celebrate a remarkable achievement, a testament to the power of hard work, dedication, and community spirit. It is my great honor to recognize Sandra Belanger and the entire SB Dance Studio for winning Best Top Studio at the 2024 Bedazzled Dance Champions competition. Under Sandra's leadership and with the support of her talented team, Tiffany Kraus, Lindsay Ross, and Emily Gibbons, they have also won scholarships to dance with Disney World Resort Dance Team, scholarships to dance with Team Canada in Europe, top overall duets, trios, and groups highest scores, special mentions, even for dancers 5 to 8-year-old. Sandra, your leadership has built more than a studio. You've built a culture of support, inclusion, and excellence that touches everyone involved. Your dancers are not only recognized for their talent, but for their character, and they carry the values of teamwork, sportsmanship, and dedication wherever they go. So on behalf of the town of Saugeen Shores and on behalf of the entire community, congratulations, Sandra, and congratulations to every dancer, parent, and coach at SB Dance Studio. Come on up. Okay, congratulations again to Sandra and her entire team. Okay, so now we'll move on to item 3, which is a delegation from Monica Singh Soares, and it's lighted up for NDEAM. Oh, and there is Monica joining us remotely. So whenever you're ready, Monica.
Thank you so much. And I just wanted to thank your wonderful staff who have been so imperative in making today happen. And I just want to make sure everyone can hear me okay.
Yeah, we hear you just fine.
Amazing. Thank you again. So good evening, Saugeen Shores Council, staff, residents, and guests. And thank you again for the opportunity to present today. I know you must have a full agenda, so I am going to be moving quite quickly through the slides. And I just wanted to thank you, Chairman, for sharing your wonderful insights about the Indigenous topics, the amazing community service that was recognized tonight through the police board, and also the dance studio that's about fun and bonding. And essentially, with that being said, that's what I'm here to add on to and talk about something called Light It Up for Ending, which is National Disability Employment Awareness Month, which is just happening next month. So today, I want to talk about this important initiative, a campaign dedicated to raising awareness about disability inclusion in the workplace. And again, hearing the great talks today, we can have a great understanding that we have a specific shortage of supply for workers, and we really have an answer, I believe, through inclusive hiring practices when we look at people with disabilities. When we take a look at Life Directions Employment, where I am a business engagement specialist, many of you may know me as a counselor with Southgate, but tonight I'm here on a different mission, and that is to promote diversity and inclusion within the workplace. So we partner with businesses to offer tailored employment solutions that enhance hiring and retention, improve disability awareness. And if we go to the next slide there, we connect employers with local job seekers who face barriers to employment. So just really quickly, a highlight of our services, we transform abilities into career opportunities by providing recruitment, training, and retention support. For employers, we equip employers with resources and training through our Career Resource Center, which is free to the public. We know that in Northern Ontario, as I mentioned, we do have retention issues with regards to the workforce, sparse population, a reliance on key industries, and so forth. And we must realize that 27% of the population is living with disabilities, according to Statistics Canada. And this is an answer where we can hire people with disabilities to help fill in that gap instead of them look at people with disabilities looking at their job or prospect in life to be volunteering for the rest of their life or having part-time positions. There is a robust workforce out there that can help to answer even our Northern Ontario issues rather. When we look at the next slide, and thank you so much, staff, you're amazing. ODIN, so very quickly, ODIN is the Ontario Disability Employment Network, which is a province-wide organization that collaborates with businesses and employment service providers like Life Directions to create employment opportunities for job seekers with disabilities. If we go to the next slide, we can take a look and see that ODIN leads campaigns and spearheads impactful initiatives like Light It Up for Ending, driving the evolution of future of disability inclusion in the workplace. Next slide, please. When we take a look at ODIN and Life Directions, and I just wanted to give the full picture of how this is working, is that our partnership with ODIN empowers us to leverage resources and promote inclusive hiring practices, ensuring that businesses have the support they need to build a diverse and productive workforce. Essentially, ODIN has the resources, Life Directions is the boots on the ground, and we are here spearheading this amazing initiative. For many years, there was a hope to get this out into the different municipalities, into businesses, and now this year we've really wrapped it up, and through partners and municipalities like yours, delegations are happening, and it's a real exciting time. If we go to the next slide, we could take a look and see that there is an impact when we look at the importance of inclusive hiring. So it not only transforms lives, but also enhances workplaces' success by increasing productivity, engagement, and profitability. So this is really good for businesses. It drives a cultural change and strengthens brand reputation and ensures businesses remain competitive. Now we're going to move to the next slide. And here we are at the fun times. So when we look at National Disability Employment Awareness Month, known as ENDING, it's an annual October campaign promoting disability inclusion in businesses and the workplace. So 27% of Canadians have a disability. And when you look at the light up at the bottom of that Canada sign, that's essentially the idea. It's a very easy, feasible thing to do, but it has great impact, and it's a movement that's happening. When we move to the next slide, we will see that it started at Brantford, Ontario City Hall. So Light It Up is a one-night national coordinated special lighting event in recognition of ending. Next slide, please. And when we take a look at this slide, we will see there was a widespread participation, over 147 communities and counting. Next slide, we will see 700 locations and counting. And if we see the next slide, 45 plus federal buildings across Canada participate by lighting up key landmarks in purple and in blue. So we've already have Hanover, they just signed on, Town of Blue Mountains, Orangeville, and I'm already getting ahead of myself because we'll see a slide on that. But I wanted to just give a why the colors. And I think we have an understanding of why we're doing things. It's better. So purple symbolizes creativity, harmony, and cooperation. Dark blue represents trust, dignity, and authority, professionalism, and intelligence, and loyalty. And you can see the puzzle piece there. So that missing puzzle piece is you. That missing puzzle piece is the ones that will come and help make the picture even larger and wonderful. So if we go to the next slide, we will see here, I like Transformers. I don't know if anyone else does, but here is a truck that was lit up and I thought it was pretty cool. So it's to give an idea for creativity. on how the impact can be there. So are you next to help light it up? If we look at the next slide, we have a quick video. I'm just gonna have that play there for you.
Be part of the 5th anniversary of Light It Up for Ending and shine a light on disability inclusive employment. Be part of this coast-to-coast collaboration that lights up the nation purple and blue for one night, the 3rd Thursday of every October during National Disability Employment Awareness Month. At hundreds of locations, from small businesses, corporate towers, and famous landmarks, in hundreds of big cities, small towns, and rural communities across Canada. Be part of something that's much more than a one-night lighting event. Be part of this movement that sparks continuing conversation about disability inclusion in business, in employment, and in our communities. There's no other event like this one during Ending. It started in Ontario 5 years ago. It grew fast and it spread across the nation. So join the movement, join in the excitement. Light it up for Ending. It's brought to you by the Ontario Disability Employment Network. It happens through collaboration with the Canadian Association for Supported Employment, Mentorability Canada, Jobsability Canada, provincial governments, federal government, and regional and local community organizations across the country. So join in. Light up your business and your community purple and blue on October 17th. Find out how you can get involved now and how you can get others involved now. Visit odinetwork.com. Download the Light It Up for Ending PR kit. Use it to spread the word and to start disability inclusion conversations in your business and your community. The more the involvement, the greater the impact of Light It Up for Ending. Let's make Year 5 a Light It Up for Ending year to remember. Let's advance the disability inclusion conversation. Let's shine more nationwide light on disability inclusive employment than ever before.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. You can see the sign there. Yeah, thank you so much, staff. And just have just a few more slides. Thank you for your indulgence there. I always get excited when I see that video. But as the presentation is just coming back on, I will just kind of, we're on slide 12, just kind of starting up with the, yeah, that's probably the YouTube. That's great. That's all right. So yeah, just getting started. Just to kind of wrap up on that. We have, as I mentioned, we did delegations and the passing has happened in different municipalities. So again, Town of Blue Mountains, Orangeville, West Gray, Georgian Bluffs. And if we go to the next slide there, we could take a look. Thank you so much. Yeah, Hanover, as I mentioned, Saugeen Shores, we're doing the delegation now. County of Gray, I believe that's the Northern Bruce Peninsula. And the next one there. So this is really exciting for Ending this year, the Bright Shores Health System. So in talking with Darlene Lombardi from one of the hospitals there, she really loved the idea. She took it to the executive team and they approved it. This is the first time that even for Odin and Ending, that all of the hospitals, the health system, I believe there's 7 of them there, if I'm not mistaken, or 6, I believe, they've all signed on and they're all going to be lighting it up. So this is really exciting. If we go to the next slide there, so the Bright Shores Health System, and then the next slide there, yeah, the South Gray Chamber of Commerce, and Saugeen Mobility, VPI, Employment Services, South Bruce. I think there was a few more on the slide before, which is the Southeast Gray Support Services and Life Directions. Thank you so much, staff. And if we pop over to the next slide and then the next one after that, and one more after that, we have more delegations coming, more requests are coming in. I just had actually several small businesses, right? They're all going to be kind of getting together and lighting up the Chamber of Commerce, I believe, for Hanover, and the DIA for Hanover. They're also getting involved. So how can you get involved? Well, you can proclaim support. So councils can issue a proclamation to officially recognize NDEAM in October. It can run all month. The official coordinated date is on the 17th, but you're more than welcome to light it up on one day or the whole month, whatever you like. Lighting up landmarks, so whatever is prominent in your area. And then the other way you can get involved is share the success. So take a photo, or there's hashtags. We have a PR digital kit, and then also that we can send over. And then also there is a map on the website where under each city is listed who is participating. So you'd be able to see Saugeen Shores listed right on the Odin website. And I would get you in contact with Dean Askin, who is the one of the ambassadors and communication specialists. So the last slide, I think we're at the ending, and thank you, Council, for your indulgence. Oh, almost. These are really cool ones that I liked, so I put them in. But you can see the Starfighter jet that was lit up in Mount Hope, Ontario. And then there's a Cabot Tower, Signal Hill National Historic Site in St. John's. And then you see Telus Tower, 25 York Street, Toronto. So just to give you some more idea of how amazing and wonderful this is. And now we get to the last slide. Thank you again so much. We have Kristen O'Sullivan, our fearless leader for Life Directions. She's the coordinator there. That's her information. Myself, Monica Singh-Soares, and then some of the websites there. That is my presentation. I'm more than happy to answer any questions, but I do want to thank you so much for taking the time to hear about how you can light it up and make a difference in your community and across Ontario and hopefully Canada.
Okay, thank you very much, Monica. Are there questions or comments from members of the committee? Councilor Grace.
Thank you very much. Hi, Monica. Nice to see you. Monica and I serve on the Smart Mobility Board together. Thanks for the presentation. Mr. Mayor, just in terms of moving forward with this, because we do have a short period of time, I am a member of our very active accessibility committee. I know Councillor Stack is joining us, I think, remotely. Maybe I saw her a minute ago. And considering our municipality's commitment to supporting and promoting accessibility, I'd like to inquire about how we can ask staff if it's feasible for us to participate in this. Thanks.
Yeah, I think it is feasible. I think recognizing that this is our last meeting in September and this event that begins in October, I think we can easily, we could issue a statement in support of National Disability Employment Awareness Month, as long as there's no objection from council here now. I think that there'd be no reason why I couldn't just do that at the beginning of the month. I see the Director of Community Services up. Maybe she has some comments she'd like to make.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks for the presentation. Staff will be looking at our facilities and to see if there's options for us to actually do the lighting up program. I can't comment at this time which facilities or how many, but we'll definitely be looking at it for 2024 and in future years.
Okay, there you go. So we'll definitely do a proclamation, and staff's looking at the lighting up options as well. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, well, thank you again, Monica. It sounds like we will be taking you up on your suggestion, and we appreciate you taking the time this evening to tell us about NDEAM and all you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you all, and thank you, Councillor Cheryl Grace, also great member. And bye, everybody. Have an amazing night. Light it up.
Thanks very much. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our delegations, and we are now on to reports of municipal officers and committees, and 8.2 staff reports. So the first one is a report on the Bruce County official plan review and consultation, and we'll begin that one with the Manager of Development Services.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm really just here to present the two members of the County of Bruce Planning Department, Monica Morrison, who's the Manager of Planning, and as I'm talking, they can come up to the mic, I suppose, and Jack Van Door, the Director of Planning. And just to introduce them, as they are working on formally and substantively introducing a new official plan for the County of Bruce. They're going to lead you through a presentation that sort of a high-level overview of what they can expect or what the community can expect for consultation. as well as highlight some of the main proposed changes that they are looking at. So.
Thank you for that introduction, Jay. Good evening, Council. Thank you for this opportunity. It's my pleasure to present to you today the draft of the new Bruce County official plan. Is on. This draft has been a long time coming and represents a significant effort from planning staff. From the beginning, we have worked with the consulting team at WSP, and along the way, we have worked with consultants like Watson and Associates, DBH Soil Services, and North-South Environmental, Inc. Today, we want to provide a high-level overview of the plan and receive questions. The official plan needs to be consistent with provincial policies and directions, including the new provincial planning statement released at the end of August. And it also needs to reflect the Bruce County context. We'll talk a little bit about the PPS later, but to understand the Bruce County context, we completed the Bruce GPS project in 2018 and 2019. This was an extensive public engagement that led to 8 guiding principles. Discussion papers were prepared for each of these guiding principles from 2019 to 2022, including potential policy directions. The next slide summarizes how the inputs from the Bruce GPS were incorporated into the draft new Bruce County official plan. On slide 4, much of the work in preparing this plan, next slide, please. Much of the work in preparing this plan was completed through various amendments to the existing county official plan, including additional residential units policies, agricultural policies, a housekeeping amendment, growth amendment, and servicing policies, including the most recent implementation policies. Other policies from the plan remain relevant and appropriate. So where policies have been brought over from previous amendments, they are highlighted in the gray text as shown on this slide. And amendments within existing policies are shown in underlined for added text or strike out through deleted text. And then the text that is new is found in the plan in the white text. Next slide. In terms of structure, the proposed plan consists of 6 parts, which are outlined here. The first 5 parts lay out the vision, growth forecast, countywide policies, policies for the land use designation, and then the implementation policies. Site-specific policy amendments that need to be carried forward will be gathered together in part 6, which staff are still compiling. Next slide, please. As I promised earlier, we would talk a little bit about the new draft provincial planning statement. The new draft provincial planning statement, it's draft, I'm used to saying new draft official plan, the proposed provincial policy statement that will come into effect on October 2nd of this year, October 20th of this year, directs that growth for planning and specifically population projections, we are to follow the Ministry of Finance forecasts. This is already a standard practice. The province approved the countywide growth forecast earlier this month. The province regularly issues new forecasts, and we will monitor growth relative to these forecasts. The proposed plan horizon is to 2046, and that lines up with the duration of the current forecast. One function of growth forecasts is to plan for land budgeting, as in, is there enough land in the regional market area to support growth over the plan horizon? This presented some challenges in Bruce County in terms of our large geography and considering the whole county as a market area, and then having to do review changes relative to that county-wide land supply. We provided a comment related to this to the province when the new PPS was under review. The new PPS that's to come into effect in October has removed requirements for comprehensive reviews. This addresses that issue, but also opens up our communities to the risk that proponents can apply to expand boundaries at any time when they have land. And if the approval is refused, it could impact our ability. If the approval is refused, they have an appeal right, which could impact our ability to shape communities. So in the Bruce County official plan, we have included proposed policies that provide some direction and criteria for boundary expansions. This will help ensure that municipalities are able to direct where and how they will grow for the benefit of the whole community. So with the changes to comprehensive reviews, municipalities still have a strong role in directing how their communities will grow, and the Bruce County official plan helps with this. The next slide. Through this plan, we have been working to structure policies wherever possible to point to provincial direction without duplicating that direction. This is an effort to reduce the need to amend the plan if provincial direction changes. The new draft plan also maps natural heritage and water resource systems. This system approach is new for the Bruce County official plan, but reflects a direction that was established in the 2014 PPS and has been carried forward through the 2020 and now the 2024 PPS. Next slide. We will now take you on a guided tour of the official plan. So in your agenda package, we attach draft PDF schedules for the plan. If you want to refer to those will help you understand the description that I'm about to provide for each of these schedules. So Schedule A is the same general content as the current Schedule A. Agricultural areas are defined by property, so no longer based on odd shape that is based on the soil classes, but each property will either be prime agriculture or rural designation. Agricultural maps were prepared based on a land evaluation area review analysis completed by the province. In the first cut of that analysis, non-prime and potential prime were identified. Then planning staff, WSP, and DBH Soil Services reviewed any variations from the provincial LEAR. For example, there were instances where the province had indicated that they thought that the designation should be prime, but we thought perhaps not based on local context. All other potential prime areas and a soils consultant did a check-in with local municipalities to derive the proposed schedules. The plan text recognizes agricultural system as an important economic contributor to the county's economic prosperity. Agricultural areas would be now allowed 2 additional dwelling units to align with the new proposed provincial planning statement, up from 1 in the current plan. This means that the policies for agriculture and rural lands will be the same in the county OP when it comes to additional residential units. So whether you're in agricultural or rural, you still can have 2 additional residential units. We've updated the open space lands to include land trust and non-governmental organizational lands that are eligible for provincial conservation and land tax incentives. And we've incorporated the best available hazard land information from conservation authorities. Finally, when it comes to Schedule A, there's a change to merge the previous shoreline, inland lake, travel and trailer park, and campground designation into 1 designation. Moving on to Schedule B. Schedule B is called Structure and Connections. There's been no significant change from the current schedule. Schedule C, Constraints. This is a map that shows, previously showed natural heritage constraints, as well as gravel pits, former and existing landfills. The natural heritage constraints are now moved to Schedule E, but otherwise that mapping stays largely the same. Schedule D is the drinking water source protection mapping that comes from the drinking water source protection plans. We just bring in the mapping that the source protection plan has into the county official plan. This way they can be easily updated in the county official plan when there's a change to the source protection plan without a need for an amendment to the county OP. Final schedule that I wanted to review with you is Schedule E, the natural heritage system. Currently, we do map wetlands in Schedule C, as I mentioned, but now we have an entire comprehensive natural heritage system mapping. This plan builds on the legacy of conserving natural heritage features for current and future generations to appreciate. So as I noted earlier, previously the PPS had required back to 2014 to identify a natural heritage system. So although it may feel new that there is now this comprehensive mapping, this is implementing provincial direction that has been a standard Ontario-wide for over a decade. The plan has also adopted distinct approaches for Northern Bruce County and Southern Bruce County. In the north of the county, due to the relative abundance of natural features, the largest intact parcels are identified as core areas. Outside of core areas, a larger size threshold is used to identify features of significance. For Southern Bruce County, like the location of Saugeen Shores, the approach is focused on maintaining key features and a system of relatively smaller forests, and then the linkages like river valleys that connect nature in an interconnected system on the landscape.
We have included an annotated legend in the PDF schedules that describes criteria for development within the natural heritage system and adjacent lands. High-level policy direction for features is available in the interactive version of the mapping by clicking on the features. So since I've alluded to the interactive mapping, if you go to planthebruce.ca and then click through to the Learn More link, the third bullet down is an interactive map that's available publicly or for council when you're reviewing the maps. You can use a slider tool to compare the current mapping and the proposed mapping side to side. Extending protection for more wetlands than those identified as provincially significant is a new change that goes beyond the minimum required by the PPS. Provincial direction already requires that we protect provincially significant wetlands, but the county official plan also includes larger unevaluated wetlands in this protection, such that the policy would not permit development in the future, and development next to this type of wetland would also have to demonstrate no negative impact. Existing agricultural uses are permitted to continue. Another new direction that we know is of interest is the support in the plan for a systems-based approach and how linkages are a part of this. Linkages illustrate the interconnected nature of natural environment features on the landscape. Within linkages, the policy would be that the existing uses can continue and the linkage function should be maintained. So for example, a linkage that crosses a farm field between two forest patches does not require the farmer to make any change to their farming practice. If there were to be a major change, like a gravel pit proposal, then enhancement of the linkage function could be required. Again, there is no impact to existing uses. The linkages identify how nature moves across the landscape, and existing farm fields, roads, and even existing buildings are considered part of that existing condition. Not all of the natural heritage features could be mapped. Valley lands are not mapped. However, development pressures are generally limited in those areas due to natural hazard considerations. Also, significant wildlife habitat and habitats of threatened species and endangered species are subject to change over time as species are added or removed from the list, and provincial or federal law applies to these endangered and threatened species habitats regardless of the plan. These habitats can include things like springtime pools known as vernal pools where amphibians like frogs breed. Also, old bank barns that have barn swallow nests would also be considered habitat. It would be impractical to attempt to map them in the Bruce County official plan. We did aim to identify features and areas that include many significant wildlife habitats and habitats suitable for threatened and endangered species. We have shown natural heritage systems conceptually within settlement areas. Where a local official plan adopts different mapping in their settlement area, the intent would be to incorporate this into the county plan. We have shown that there is continuity of natural features between the county and Saugeen Ojibwe Nation and Chippewas of Nawash unceded First Nation lands, the national parks, and the Bruce Power Site. However, the plan does not assert any jurisdiction in these areas. Schedule F is the water resource system, which the provincial planning statement requires be identified. This identifies surface water features and groundwater features. Of note in Saugeen Shores is the mapping of significant groundwater recharge areas. Some reviewers of our plan have questioned how these areas will be regulated. The development criteria here is to maintain recharge function by avoiding or mitigating intensive development and large impervious areas. So the criteria apply to intensive development and large impervious areas, like for example, a large shopping center parking lot. For development at this scale, minimum landscape open space requirements and good stormwater management could be used to address this requirement. The policies in the draft do not address manure spreading, which is regulated under the Nutrient Management Act. We appreciate that there may be some concerns about the level of detail at which these maps are produced relative to the scale of water resource needs of settlement areas, and we'll examine this in further detail during the engagement process. So that concludes my tour of the various schedules. As I said, those are available in your council package as the PDFs. Moving on to boundary adjustments. We have received various boundary adjustment requests as part of this process. They've been provided in your package as well. Some of these boundary adjustment requests come from municipalities, some come from landowners, and some have been identified as possibilities by staff. We have bundled these requests into a package attached to your agenda, and each local municipality may have requests. We are not providing a recommendation at this time. We are simply providing these requests for information, and we anticipate that we may receive additional requests during the engagement phase. During the engagement phase, we will consult with the associated local municipalities and owners of properties to review and assess requests based on a set of criteria. At the conclusion of the public engagement process, we will be in a position to make recommendations on the requests that have been noted and others that may emerge through the engagement process. So we're on to slide 9, which is called highlights from the text. So I'm going to quickly summarize a few of the text-related changes that have happened in the Bruce County official plan. Bruce County Council recently endorsed an Indigenous reconciliation framework and Saugeen Anishinaabe reconciliation pathway and action plan. Building on this, the draft plan centers Bruce County within the San traditional territory and builds on the work of the implementation amendment to update Indigenous consultation policies and highlight areas of critical interest to San, including environmental impacts and especially shoreline hardening as having potential to impact San interests in water and fish habitat. Another topic of interest is housing. The draft plan has a strong housing focus and maintains minimum density requirements, supports a range and mix of housing, supports as of right additional residential units where possible, and identifies affordability targets. The plan also recognizes that the Housing Action Plan and Housing and Homelessness Plans provide higher levels of detail than the county official plan, and that they support action to increase housing supply. The draft plan incorporates the growth management amendment and encourages appropriate intensification to make good use of existing infrastructure in settlement areas. The plan recognizes agriculture, tourism, and energy as strategic economic drivers and also supports diversification of the economic base, supports the master transportation plan, and envisions complete communities in a thriving region with easy access to housing, jobs, recreation, and services. The plan recognizes a role as an upper tier plan, a county plan, but is also a plan for the countryside, since 7 out of 8 of our local plans only focus on settlement areas. Our county official plan is trying to get out of the business of requiring frequent amendments. Currently, our plan has well over 300 amendments. For example, we no longer will require a county official plan amendment to create a quarry or gravel pit in a designated mineral resource area. You still need a zoning bylaw amendment, which is a local approval, and the Ministry of Natural Resources license. The county plan would continue to provide criteria for approval authorities, which would, in this case, would be the local council in deciding the zone change. This is more streamlined than requiring an amendment to the county plan and then also requiring a zone change. Right now, we have a county plan and 8 local plans, each with lots of details in various areas. We are looking to streamline these documents and say things once and say them well. Given that the plan must provide detailed policies for areas where local plans do not apply, then the plan is set up to give local plans the option to either refer to the policies in the county official plan rather than restate them, or restate them and then have a local policy that permits updating them by way of a council resolution if the county changes the official plan. For example, they have to line up with a provincial change, or provide a local policy in their local plans, provided that it does not conflict with the county official plan. This represents an opportunity going forward for the collective bulk of our planning documents to be reduced and focused on providing local context where it makes sense. Slide 10 talks about drinking water protection. Recognizing the importance of facilitating new residential development while protecting groundwater, there are new policies proposed in the Bruce County official plan to offer more flexibility to incorporate additional residential units on private or partial services where the risks to groundwater can be managed. Development that relies on advanced treatment systems, also known as tertiary treatment systems, to justify larger development or more units will only be allowed in settlement areas and only where tools are available to ensure that risks can properly be managed are implemented. And I believe I'm at my second last slide. Currently, we are at the engagement phase, which means that we are taking the plan out to yourselves at local councils to open houses. We have 4 open houses planned on October 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Those will be held in Southampton, Wyerton, Walkerton, and Tara. The open house plan for Tara is in partnership with the Bruce County Federation of Agriculture. We are looking for feedback to support our return to County Council in late October on the boundary adjustments and the engagement themes that we've talked about today. If there are changes that result from the public engagement, we'll bring those forward and then proceed to a statutory open house and public meeting prior to adopting the final plan. The only thing I would like to finally mention is that in preparing our plan to have this completed by December, the one risk that timeline might not be met that we've identified is if there are further public engagement and issues that arise through the public consultation that require more time to discuss and manage, this could affect the proposed timeline. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions from council.
Okay, thank you very much, Monica. Are there questions or comments from members? Start with the deputy mayor and work down.
Thank you. And through you, thank you very much for a very comprehensive review of your slides and some other planning stuff that's in the works. Just, you mentioned October the 2nd, and you said something about Southampton, just to have it be out there. It's October the 2nd, 10:30 to 1 o'clock at the Curling Club in Southampton, the Annex, which is part of the Coliseum. I know it's in your report, but just to have that be part of the mix. I have a couple of questions. I'm going to ask 2, and then towards the end, if other members of council haven't attacked or addressed a specific area, I hope you'll come back to me. It's very confusing sometimes to understand the authority that goes on from the county level and from here. And you've also introduced the idea that there were some PPS, provincial policy statements, planning statements that came out at the end of August that are to be implemented on October the 2nd. The one area that I wanted to ask you about was related to the settlement area expansions. And I know that in your slide deck, there was a slide that said there was not going to be an opportunity for, or now there isn't a comprehensive municipal review, but you also said that the county is developing criteria to assess these things. Part of my question is, I hope that you provide us, every council, with a very clear indication of what your criteria are, because this is something that the community has been very involved with in the past. And I can remember a number of times where we've talked about expanding the boundary. There's the material that we received. There's quite a few for Port Elgin, and I think there was only one situation, which was in the former, the geographic area of the former town of Southampton. But all of them are landowner initiated. So I'm very interested to know what kind of public engagement, because you mentioned it, that there's public engagement, but is it just with us, council, or is it more open to involvement from the community? And, I know that one of your slides talked about public engagement has a risk to the timeline. I never see public engagement as a risk. So it's an opportunity for people who care about their communities, the interest in their communities, that kind of thing, to participate. So I just wanted to ask you for a little more information about how you see that boundary expansion aspect of this unfolding over time. So that would be my first question.
The boundary expansions that were provided in council's package are available for the public to view. They will also be brought for viewing at the 4 open houses that I mentioned. So there is an opportunity for the public to see the questions or the requests for boundary expansions that have been put forward.
And when will we, council, the public, be provided with an indication of what criteria you're looking at? Because we used to, when we thought about it here, the settlement boundary areas meant something. And so, you know, we were always very diligent about the way we thought about how it made sense to expand or not expand. So I'm just, you mentioned that there was going to be county criteria. I just, you know, when will that information be available so we see how we're going to assess them? Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. Through the mayor, so the 2024 provincial planning statement provides a set of criteria that municipalities must consider when undertaking a boundary expansion, or which must be considered. And then what we have proposed for the plan is very similar. There's a bit more of an expectation that it be demonstrated that, I think, would be the key nuance between, you know, got to consider something versus got to demonstrate it. That's a key difference that we're proposing in the official plan that we're engaging on. So within the growth management policies of the plan is the criteria that would be contemplated for boundary adjustments or expansions within that plan. And we look forward to providing the workup with respect to the various requests we've received once that workup has been completed.
Thank you. It's always good when we have county professional planners with us and also the professionals who have planning experience like Jay and Mark and Candace and everybody else connected to us to help us understand what's happening. Further to that though, and I appreciate you gave us information about where we can find these criteria, both from a provincial point and also a little more drilled down to the local example. I guess it would be nice through you, Mr. Mayor, to at some point, and, you know, I'm not asking for it to be immediate, but since there seems to be some things that have come down from the province that are setting up opportunities and challenges, if we could have some kind of presentation from our own staff about how they impact the way we do business here. And, you know, I'm just looking at, you know, there's a number of things about affordability in here too. And, you know, it's housing hits both levels. And so how do we make sure that, you know, we're aware of what we directly have some authority over and how does that mesh with the new plan? But I'll leave my questions there and let other members ask questions if they have.
Okay, thank you. The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, staff, for the report. Very comprehensive. And page 17, 18, 19 of the mapping is a comment and then a suggestion. I think I know where the properties are located, but without any road numbers like concession 6, concession 8, concession 10, you've got east, south, north Port Elgin. There are 4 properties in Port Elgin and 1 in Southampton. I think it's north of the airport and I think it's north of the 4th concession, but I don't really know. I know the mapping pretty well in Saugeen Shores, but is there a possibility of putting any identification on these maps so I know where these properties are? Because I'm interested. I mean, obviously people want to expand the settlement area. It's good for us to know where that is. I really am not sure I'm correct. So could that be put on the mapping?
Yes. So I think you're referring to the proposed boundary expansion mapping. And yes, in the next version of those that we create, we can add concession numbers, road names, so that it's easier to identify exactly where the properties in question are
Appreciate
located.
that. That'd be very helpful. And when you say north Port Elgin, south Port Elgin, east Port Elgin in brackets, just for Saugeen Township, I think it'd be nice if you mentioned Saugeen Township. I know what you're trying to do there, where it's north, south, east, but I think all of the properties, I believe, all of the properties are in Saugeen Township. Would that be correct?
I think so.
Except Southampton, of course.
We can add the township reference to the boundary expansion mapping.
Just in brackets. It's just a very important part of our community too, obviously. Saugeen Township is. So anyways, that was my main thing. And the other thing I just wanted when we're changing the settlement area, and I know that's a very, very complicated matter in terms of, you know, a comprehensive study would have to take place. And can you give me just a snapshot of how long that process is? And these are all settlement area requests from private landowners. I understand that. But I mean, there's water and there's sanitary, and how long is the process involved when we talk about expanding our settlement area? Is it 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? How long does it take?
For the actual growth to reach that area?
No, my question was, when the request comes forward to expand the settlement area, that's obviously a very comprehensive request because, I mean, I think our water sanitary is a 25-year build out right now, but to expand the settlement area, there's obviously a lot of things you have to take into consideration. And I am talking about water and sanitary, for example. Do we even need to expand the settlement area for additional housing? What's our build out right now? I think it's 25 years. But how long is that process when someone makes a request like this? Can you just, Jack, just take us through a little bit the process?
Yeah, so some of the criteria that are involved are an investigation. First, what's the land budget looking like, right? So there's the evaluation of need relative to the forecasts. So we did do an analysis of land across the county based on the growth forecast, and the province recently approved that. And it did indicate potentially in Saugeen Shores some need for land, particularly on the employment side. So we'll be looking at these requests in the context of what's the growth forecast that we have at hand. And then we are also circling back with local municipal staff around what is the infrastructure capacity? Is there an ability to actually provide services to, any or all of the lands that might be needed in order to accommodate growth during the forecast period? I think we were using planning horizon. We're trying to get away from looking over the horizon looking at the period of the plan. Then we've got, an investigation of which is the best, if we have locations that we need, what is the best location to be looking at from a distribution of community services, traffic impacts, and all those other factors.
Okay.
So when we have, the more material we have as part of a submission, the easier it is to evaluate those changes. And just want to highlight, we haven't taken a recommendation on any of these requests at this time. It's entirely possible that recommendations could come forward that that proposals anywhere across the county have been demonstrated to kind of meet the criteria and should proceed. Some could be identified as this isn't the right time. We don't have the material yet to support a conclusion with respect to these, and they could be referred to a process through which an individual landowner could pursue their own application to address that and develop all the materials. What we didn't want to do is come forward with a draft plan with boundary changes already shown right on the schedules as something that were, in the plan and take them out if you don't want to. We didn't want to come forward with a plan that had, requests received from the public through a process and disregard them. So the best approach that we could identify was to collect them together and say, here's the requests we've received. We'll be evaluating these, and at the end of the engagement period, we'll come back with a recommendation.
Thank you. Just a quick follow-up. So, Jack, if you can answer this question for in terms of build-out within our existing settlement area and the land mass that we have available for housing and commercial land. Well, I'm speaking most about residential. For our build-out, where we have adequate supply of water and sanitary in our existing settlement area, do you have that number at your fingertips, or could you send it to me? I'd be interested in knowing how many years are we right now in terms of build-out within our existing settlement area, water sewer capacity, existing land mass. Are we 10 years, 15 years, 20 years before we have to actually take a look at expanding our settlement area? Where are we today?
Yeah, so I don't have that number for you this evening. Something we don't we don't have your flows for your water and sewer, so we'd have to work with your staff to try to get a bit of a report back to the municipality, and that would likely best come from your staff.
Okay, somebody just be interested to know, Mr. Mayor, the number of years that we have ahead of us where we're in good shape for water and sanitary and for land mass, for what we have available for housing before we have to actually take a look at expanding our settlement area. I'd be interested in knowing that.
I'll just take this moment to perhaps ask the question. I see the manager coming forward, but I may put this to the director. it's the intention of the town of Saugeen Shores as part of this process to formulate a comprehensive response to the county's plan to comment, in other words, on what the county has put forward and to express the town of Saugeen Shores' view on what's being proposed. And a comment like that would include our own analysis and our own understanding of things like settlement area boundaries and all sorts of other things. Am I correct about that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, that's correct. That's how we're looking at it. I think I'll just add maybe an opportunity to clarify, is the process we're in to both add the criteria to the plan to align with the province and to assess the merits of the proposed expansions all in the same process. And if we feel as though we don't have enough information right now, there's no requirement necessarily to go thumbs up, thumbs down between now and the end of this current engagement. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. So we don't have, we don't have an imperative to decide these boundary expansions at this time. We've received these requests. So a definitive yes or no. There may be cases where a yes included in the county plan makes sense, but there may be cases where we say, no, we don't have the information to support a decision at this point. And so we would, in those scenarios, refer those folks to a separate process.
Okay, thank you for that. Sorry, Jay, did you have, you went back? I didn't mean to, you have nothing to add to that? Okay. Okay. Okay, yeah, so the municipality will be submitting a comment, and this council will obviously approve those comments before they go into the county. So, Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Monica and Jack, for the presentation. I do have a couple of questions. I think I sent to the wrong email address today, Monica. That's probably why you didn't get that. Anyway, I do just have a comment, a suggestion going forward for your presentation and how it aligns with the slide deck. Just a suggestion that might make it easier if you're presenting this to public meetings. The slide that says new draft plan schedules, I would suggest that you maybe expand that and have a couple of bullet points to summarize each one, because when I was listening and looking at this, I thought it was a title, and then I was kind of moving ahead, and in my mind, it didn't line up at all with what I was seeing. So the details are helpful, but I think for people who are not just auditory learners, it's important to have visual too, if you can make an adjustment on that going forward.
Certainly, thank you for the question. We have been in some of the other presentations able to present the maps in real time.
Okay,
Unfortunately, we weren't able to do it this evening, but for future ones, we will have some PDFs as well and some text so that we have a backup in
okay.
the event that we're unable to
Great.
do that. Thank you.
Just a couple of other points. In this presentation too, that you have a section that says sort of a summary of what's in and what's not in. And on the what's not in section, for the first two where it's talking about something to do with surplus farm dwelling severances and new residential lots and woodlands in the prime agricultural area, you say what's not in due to provincial direction. So I'm assuming that means the province is saying you can't have it in there. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and then the other three, steps to a transit network transit system, that's not in. Why is that not included anymore?
There are supportive policies for transit in the draft New Bruce County official plan, but there was a direction that came out of the Bruce GPS to do something very particular, like make incremental steps towards transit. Approach like that is more appropriately addressed through the master transportation plan. And so that's why it's not addressed in the official plan.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the plan itself, when I was reading the guiding principles, and one of the guiding principles says, identify and manage cultural heritage resources. Then when you go on and look farther on at the section, which is more in depth about cultural heritage resources, it talks about protecting, enhancing, celebrating. If, I don't know, this is getting right into the weeds, but the use of the word manage to me was too broad, and it could be anything. It could mean ripping down, cultural built heritage. That's managing too. So if there's some way you could put in there more of a goal, I'm assuming it's a guiding principle to try to protect or celebrate or somehow have a stronger wording. That's just my preference towards protection of cultural heritage resources.
Sure, we can make a note of that.
Okay. And then I also noted that in a couple of places, the wording is sort of tentative. For instance, in my mind, your section on climate change and sustainability, where it says that the county may develop and implement an action plan or a strategy to address climate change mitigation and adaptation. I'd like to see something stronger there than may, because when you look at other pieces of the document, you say, we'll do this. We will do this. We will take this action on policies towards waste management or relations with Indigenous peoples, for instance, or working to improve intermunicipal and interregional transit connections. We will do that, but climate change, that's pretty important, and I'm not quite sure why you chose to use the word may there.
I can speak to that.
Okay.
So we definitely will note that your feedback is that you'd like stronger language there. And I believe Jack's taking notes. But what I would, by way of explanation, is when you see a may and it may develop a climate action plan, it's what we call enabling language. So it's setting up, if there was future grants or future opportunities, it's setting up the opportunity to go in that direction. And then that climate action plan would set out the specific requirements. But the other thing I would want to maybe layer on in my answer is that throughout the plan, as a land use planning document, there is a lot baked in related to climate change. So for example, directing development to settlement areas and promoting complete communities is, and you'll see phrases within the sections on communities about avoiding the need to travel long distances. So we do have a section that speaks to climate change, has enabling languages to go further, but baked into the plan itself are the directive actions that relates to land use planning for climate change.
Okay, I understand that, but my preference is where we take a stronger view. The last section I wanted to talk about was the source water protection, and this may be getting more into, it's specifically about Southampton, because there is a specific section about Southampton in there. And maybe Jay would be better to answer this question, but I guess I'm just wondering, I'm going back to 2016 when the source water protection changes, when the legislation took effect, I believe in the summer of 2016. And at one point, because our municipal water intake is off the coast in Southampton, I understood at the time that there was a radius of area that there had just been a new gas station built in Southampton, which had it been built later, a little bit later, it probably wouldn't have, I understand, been approved because it was within that radius of the source water protection area to that intake. And the reading of this indicates that, I'm wondering my first question is, can new gas stations within this exclusion zone still be prohibited? Has the source water protection legislation changed?
Not to my knowledge. So the intent of the Bruce County official plan would be not to go in a new direction with regard to drinking water source protection, but follow the directions that are established by the drinking water source protection plans. So if there's something that you're reading in the Bruce County official plan that doesn't seem correct to you, it would be great if you could highlight so that we could review it with the risk management official. But the wording that we have provided was reviewed with the drinking water risk management official, and this was their preferred wording.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to suggest it's not correct. I think it is. I'm just wondering if it had changed at all, because there was a section in there talking about existing gas stations being able to, or fuel sources or whatever, being able to apply if they wanted to either renovate or expand an existing gas station, that they could apply to the risk management body and get an assessment, and then council would have to look at that. But I wasn't suggesting there was a change. I just wondered, well, I wondered if there was a change. I wasn't suggesting there was an error in the way it was described.
So I do believe that it remains a policy in the proposed plan that speaks to expansion where it can be demonstrated to the satisfaction of the risk management official. So I think that is still in there. And what we've been endeavoring to do within this is to provide it within the county plan, because there's some areas of your source protection area associated with your drinking water system that would fall outside of the settlement area of Port Elgin or Southampton. And so by including it in the county plan, we thought, well, if it's outside of those settlement areas, to make sure it's got plan coverage, we'll put it into the county plan. And then we've endeavored to have all of the necessary policy for all of the drinking water systems across the county within the county plan. And then it would make it easier. Municipalities can decide whether they still need to have them in their own plan or whether that county coverage is sufficient.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Mayette. Okay, Councillor Halpin then.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. I have a question about the proposed changes to the settlement area for Saugeen Shores. They're quite significant, especially around Port Elgin. And it also says that kind of like what's out now is comprehensive reviews for municipalities. So my question is that there's huge amounts that are, been suggested to be included in our settlement area. A lot of it is prime agricultural land. A lot of it is also on hazard land, what according to this map is on hazard land. And so what role will this council have in speaking towards these applications for including the settlement, in increasing the settlement area?
So as we spoke about earlier, there has been no recommendation offered about the boundary requests that we've received. The package that has been provided is simply to show what has been received as a request. We would, in preparation for our recommendation on the requested boundary expansions, we would be consulting with Saugeen Shores staff to see if they have are able to give us guidance about whether these proposals would meet the development criteria. Like, are there services available? Let's have a conversation about the land budget and what the need is. When a boundary expansion is proposed, it would require a county official plan or required to be incorporated into the county official plan, but it would also require a local plan amendment. So your question was, at what point would this come to your council for a decision? And the answer would be, it would require a local plan amendment as well. So prior to the the recommendation going forward on the county official plan, we would engage with your staff in preparing our workup of all of these proposals. And prior to any change being implemented, it would come to your council for a local official plan amendment. And staff have indicated that they will be doing, your Saugeen Shores staff have indicated that they will be doing a report to your council on the boundary expansion requests.
Thank you, Mayor. And so what is the opportunity for public input into these changes that are proposed? Thank you.
So right now, the proposed boundary expansion requests are posted on the Plan the Bruce website. So they're currently available for the public to view, and comments can be received through a variety of means, through emailing planthebruce@brucecounty.on.ca, or by coming to the public open houses that I mentioned earlier. So the public has an opportunity through the open houses, through the website currently, to review and comment on the boundary expansion proposed requests.
Thank you. And so, for instance, in a proposed area that's largely a hazard land, they would still need approval from Saugeen Valley and different organizations such as that, water source protection. Is that correct?
So protection of natural environment and hazards would be one of the criteria that we would base our recommendation on. The boundary expansion itself, if it was proposed in the new draft official plan, the conservation authorities would be circulated and they'd be able to review the proposals that were going forward. If they had concerns about a hazard issue, they could comment on it. But we probably wouldn't recommend something if there was a known hazard issue.
Okay, thank you very much. So people do have areas for the public where they can make comments on this. So I'll pass that on. Thank you.
Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. First of all, thanks to the Vice Deputy Mayor for consideration of this former Saugeen Township, as a lot of the areas that we're talking about for expansion are in fact in the Saugeen Ward, former Saugeen Township. My question is about the land classification. I think in your presentation, you said that the province has eliminated the different classifications and just gone to one classification of prime agriculture. Is that what I heard properly? Because for decades, if not centuries, the agricultural community has been grading properties based on A1 to A5 for its suitability for cropping and other agricultural activities.
Thank you for the question. So the ultimately the county official plan makes a determination of whether land is identified as prime agricultural land or part of the agricultural system or is rural land. So that's kind of the ag or rural. And that is based on the outcome of a process called a land evaluation area review. And so that's two parts that are kind of mashed together into something that gets a short form called LEAR. So LE, land evaluation, that's focused on the soil types. And so the grades of soil from 1 to 7 and all of the subclassifications within there are all kind of factored into a score on the soil, the land evaluation. And then the second part of the evaluation is the area review, and that looks at the fragmentation or the, are the parcels large or has there been a bunch of land division? Is there predominantly agricultural uses occurring on the lands, or is it a mix of uses? And so those two scores together yield one number, and that number was used to determine whether things would hit the threshold to be prime ag land or would not hit the threshold, and then they were potential prime, and we had to review and make a determination of whether it should be prime or not prime, or they were lower than both of those and they were classified as rural land. So the 7 categories of soil are still very much a thing. They just get all kind of fed up into and distilled into prime ag, not prime ag, for the purposes of the county plan.
Well, that's a good answer. And
you actually alluded to my next question, which was the definition of potential prime ag. And I see on your map on your website, there's quite a few areas that are determined as potential prime ag. So could you give us an idea what made the determination to put land into that category?
Yeah, so when we were doing the initial work with the output that came from the province, we had areas that clearly met the score for prime, and then there were areas that were close to the score for prime. And so those were ones that we did some initial engagement. We had those maps, and they're still available, indicating areas that were potential. So it was, the initial work wasn't to a point where we had made a clear determination at that point. And so in order to help get to either prime or rural, we engaged DBH Soil Services to help us review all of those areas, as well as any of the other areas where we'd suggested a change from what the initial output had been to come to the maps that we've released for circulation.
Okay. Further comments, the Deputy Mayor?
I'll circle back. There wasn't much asked or said about housing, and one of your slides, slide 9, says that the new or the draft revised official plan includes a strong housing focus, which maintains minimum density, supports a range and mix of housing, ADU where possible, affordability targets, infilling, intensification, and the role of housing action plan and housing and homelessness plan. I just, this is a hot topic, of course. Housing is a critical element in every community in Bruce County, but very, very specifically here, it comes up a lot. If you could highlight perhaps the affordability targets mentioned in that block, what of the items that are potentially being adjusted, included, added, edited in some way in the Bruce County official plan, what items have the greatest potential to provide some meaningful actions or effort towards addressing affordability targets? And what I'm getting at is that we need all the help we can get, and we certainly need to talk about it on a regular basis so that developers who are working here and elsewhere in the county hear the language, hear the requests, and have their own opportunities perhaps to contribute to our success. But I just, how do you realize affordability targets? What do you think is now going to be in this plan that gives us a chance? I just wanted to give you a chance to highlight a couple of items that are related to housing. Thank you.
Thank you. So Jack and myself have been working on a housing cross-functional team with the county. So we are also working in parallel to the work on the county official plan on efforts at the county level. And I think the first thing that I would speak to when we talk about affordability is that there's a spectrum of housing offerings that go from county supported housing, nonprofit supported housing, and then there's the market-based options for delivering housing. The way that the county official plan as a land use planning document in guiding development is mostly focused on the market side of that spectrum. So there is an affordability target in the county official plan, and the way that is implemented is it's backward looking, like how have we been performing in accordance with that target? And all of the efforts that are made at municipalities in the county to speak to housing, like building co-op housing, nonprofit supported housing, county supported housing, would all contribute to meeting that affordability target. But when it comes to trying to direct the for-profit market side of housing, I think the most effective tool that we have in the county official plan are the two policies, one that speaks to minimum density targets and the other that speaks to the requirement of a mix of at least 30% medium density within any development that has 10 or more units. Sorry, I'm going off the top of my head, so I hope I'm quoting that right. But the policies that direct development within new plans of subdivision that require minimum density and a minimum mix of unit types, I think is the most effective land use planning policy that we have to address affordability.
Okay, well, thank you guys very much for your presentation. And um, I've had the opportunity now to participate in this presentation a couple of times, and it's good. I hope that folks go on to planthebruce.ca and check out some of the features there. I know Jack had mentioned the interactive maps, which we did get to see at the county. It's a shame we didn't get to see them here because they really are great, going on there and seeing and being able to slide back and forth and seeing the change on the ground from the existing plan to the new proposed plan. I mean, it's a great feature. Really congratulate staff on putting that together because it'll be very helpful to the public. And I encourage everybody to have a look at that and also look carefully at, I know council will, and as has been mentioned, we're going to receive a report back from our staff with more comprehensive details on the impact within the town of Saugeen Shores, and we'll be able to talk about it again. But it's important, I think, to look at the mapping carefully and the related regulations with regard to the town of Saugeen Shores and see what is being proposed on the landscape and how that impacts beyond the settlement area adjustments, which are important. Things like that significant groundwater recharge feature under the water resource system. This, to me, is a thing that could have substantial impact on the town of Saugeen Shores. Almost the entire settlement area of Saugeen Shores is impacted by significant groundwater recharge areas. If you look at the recommended policy direction, and I know there was an attempt at reassurance tonight, I'm still not super reassured because it looks like a layering on of a pretty significant new regulation on our settlement areas, which runs directly counter to intensification, which is what we want to do in our settlement areas. So to have contradictory regulations and additional regulation is problematic from my perspective. So I raise that just to sort of at the broader level to say, have a good look at these documents. There's some changes in terms of the designation of what is now agricultural land to rural designation. That's a pretty significant change. There's actually a fair bit of that around the settlement areas of Port Elgin and Southampton, of Saugeen Shores. That is a big change. Not casting judgment one way or the other on it at the moment, but it's important to look at. So there's a lot of stuff that's pretty significant, some pretty big changes, and we should look at them, not be too quick to jump to conclusions, but think about them carefully and have a good unified response as a municipality going forward. And the only other comment I would make is I think it would really be it's really worthwhile, and certainly the way I'm looking at this policy as a member of Bruce County Council, as well as this council, is what we're hearing about municipal planning, the amount of regulation that there is, and the impact that's having on housing in particular. If you go to the end of this document, you'll see there's a section on additional reports that we could require. You have to go through the alphabet twice to list them. There's over almost 50 of them. That's a lot of, not saying that that's going to be applied to every development, it isn't, but there's a heck of a lot of potential studies and rules in place here. You can see quickly how overly burdensome the planning process can become quickly, and how that could put negative pressure on what our objective should be, which is getting housing built. So we have to look carefully at all of that, decide what absolutely has to be done, what we have no choice to do, and what we have options to perhaps do without, so that we can streamline these processes and streamline these documents. So so that's the way I'm thinking about it when I read it, and there'll be lots more to say on it going forward. So anyway, I really appreciate you guys coming in tonight. There is a recommendation that council receive the Bruce County Official Plan Review and Consultation Report for information. So if there's nothing further, I'll ask all in favor. That's carried, and thank you guys very much. October 2nd. Oh yeah, so we have the open houses. The open house, well, there's a few open houses coming up, and there's the one is October 2nd in Southampton at the Curling Club Annex, which is attached to the Coliseum in Southampton. So we certainly encourage all members of the public to attend that, and any of the other ones in Bruce County if you're able to make them. Okay, so 8.2.2 is the Aquatic and Wellness Center fundraising update, and we'll turn that over to the Director of Community Services.
That's a tough act to follow, the OP review. So this is a great news story for our community and the AWC project. As council is aware, our fundraising team has advanced the Quiet Ask and the public fundraising campaign for the project. So we're fortunate to have two extremely heavy hitters when it comes to fundraising and community partnership leading our fundraising efforts. So Rob Stanley, who was absolutely instrumental in the Lamont Sports Park project, is also our AWC fundraising coordinator. His relationship building and soft approach to potential partners has moved our needle considerably closer to our overall target. And our fundraising lead, Allison Taylor Meisner, who's here tonight, is joining us to present her report to council. Her knowledge, background, and thinking outside the box approach are huge assets to our fundraising team. Her organization and determination are second to none, and appreciate her commitment to our project. So I'll turn it over to Allie.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you, Council, Mayor. I am very excited to be a part of this project, and as we can see as we're coming in, not now as it's darker, but it's a beautiful building to see coming to life. We've had the opportunity to have quite a bit of support so far this year, topping it off with Brad and Kathy Pride supporting us with a very significant donation of $1 million towards the project. We have had very much support with Bruce Power for many projects. And as we know, they have also given us a donation of $500,000 towards the campaign. During, as we kind of go over this report, you can also look on the report that we've provided, and there's links to the media releases where you can get a little bit more information. And it's kind of an honor for them to see you review those as well. We have the Charbonneau family that kicked off our brick campaign with a 25,000 donation, and we are very grateful for that as well. It really shows how community can come together and support the project, which will lead into our public ask of the brick campaign, which I'll speak to in a moment. We have a great donation of $100,000 from the Society of United Professionals. They invited us down to their new office in Tiverton build, and we were honored to have that recognition there. ES Fox most recently came to see us here and gave us a donation of $100,000 as well towards the project. And they brought in some officials, and we were very happy to receive that donation as well. There's a wide range of wellness that is supported in this community, and it's a great growth opportunity. In July, we were honored to have Enbridge Gas and Vanderwerf's Independent Grocer support the launch of our community fundraising campaign. And they showed their support with giving us a donation towards a barbecue. And we held it out here. We had over 300 items cooked, served, and delivered to our community. The amount to date is $1.7 million and growing. I feel like this is a great place to be. We have more to go, but with the multiple donations that are going to be coming in that aren't included in this report, currently in finalizations, I'm very excited over the next few months to present more donations that are coming in, moving us very much closer to our 3 million target, which I'm very excited to see come to life. Just also wanted to add, our Just Add Water campaign continues to be a popular, and we are launching that at community events and going out to the community at large for those donations as well. Okay.
That's great. Thanks, Allie, for that. So in closing, I'll just highlight for council, included in the report are some upcoming fundraising opportunities that we're exploring and or have submitted applications for, and an update on the construction project itself. So we are on target to gain partial occupancy for the lower level of the admin space in December of this year, and full occupancy of the building scheduled to occur in the fall of 2025. And Allie and I are happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you to you both. There's a recommendation that council receive the Aquatic and Wellness Center fundraising update report for information and questions or comments. The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Ellie, I just wanted to say thank you, and haven't had a chance to really meet you yet officially, but you are here tonight. It's great to see you, and I've just heard nothing but great comments about the work you're doing in our community. And I'm sure you're finding that Saugeen Shores is a community that just keeps on giving. You know, I was really, as you know, was heavily involved with the Lamont Sports Park campaign, and did extremely well, and this campaign looks to be going extremely well too. And look at groups like the Society of United Professionals, what can we say, how much more can we say about that group? I mean, another $100,000. They just keep on giving. And ES Fox, I was part of that photo op, and it was nice to meet the owners there, and the Charbonneau family, and all the rest of the donations that are flowing in. Bruce Power, it's just wonderful. So keep up the great work. And I just wondering, and to Robert Stanley too, who just is a wonderful volunteer in our community and does great work. He's got so many contacts, and he seems to be able to attract some donations from our community. The campaign for the Buy a Brick, is it called the Buy a Brick campaign, and when's that going to be launched? And secondly, is there a community fundraising group that's being formed, or not so much? Is it just going to be left to the two fundraisers to try and secure some funding from our community? Is it going to be a community fundraising group, or is it going to be a major community fundraising event, a weekend sort of thing between now and the opening? So those are my two questions. Is it, when's the campaign being launched for Buy a Brick? And you're planning a big event between now and next year or not?
So we have had a few opportunities to kind of soft launch, I'll say, the BRIC campaign, and with the mayor's family donation, that would be the first one that was really launching the campaign there. And then also our Enbridge barbecue that we hosted was another opportunity where we actually had the bricks available for people to touch and feel and understand the concept. And the plan is to attend events within the community to really talk to the community, get involvement. And a strategy that I also have is to work with our swim team and our life savings team and get them involved as well, to show the passion of these kids and families and young adults that want to be a part of this pool and aquatic center, that are going to benefit from it beyond. And it's kind of an opportunity for us to really highlight them long term. So my idea is get into the community, support the bricks, and really show them this is something that's going to put a mark on their families, their activities, and for years to come, they're going to be a part of the build.
Okay.
So really, in essence, it's a campaign that's kind of slowly coming into the community. There hasn't been, I would say, a splash event that we've used it for yet, but that's not, we're seeing that we're not going to do that, but nothing in the complete works at the moment.
Okay, so not a community fundraising group per se, right?
We do have lots of volunteers
Great.
that are willing to help us, so yes.
This might be a question of strides, perhaps, Mr. Mayor, we want a couple more points here, but the 4 grants, and over the last, I've been part of government here for 25 years now, so close to 25 years in Saugeen Shores, and we've really not been that successful with recreation funding. Lamont Sports Park, I think we've got $12 million invested, and I don't think there was one penny that came from the province in that regard. And the $50 million wellness center, we keep applying, no success yet. And we're investing substantially in, fundraising, a professional fundraiser at another level. And really, I'm still waiting, patiently to see results. I know it's hard, it's competitive with 440 municipalities across the province, but what level of confidence, strides do you have? We're still plugging away at those grant applications. I see 4 of them. I guess your answer is going to be you're optimistic, but any inkling at all? Are we making any progress there at all with grant applications?
Thank you for the question, and I'm always optimistic. So we haven't had any successes yet. For the Aquatic and Wellness Center itself, we've applied for 4 grants, both provincial and federally. We were declined those grants for a few different reasons, but we required some great feedback on the application and also some hints to help us with our stream 2 or round 2 of some of those applications. Also, Jill has a great report on tonight about some of the AMO delegations and work that her and her team are doing, that Kara is doing as well, our friends from Wellington, DuPont, and Grant Match, and getting in front of the ministries and the ministries at the staffing level as well, is to see how can we improve our chances, how can we improve our applications, and hopefully get them to the top of the pile and get them in front of the eyes that we need to.
Thank you. And DuPont and Grant Match is my final question, but they're still under contract. And do you know when they end those contracts?
I don't know those details tonight. I'll follow up with council on.
Okay. Anyways, good luck with the grant applications. I mean, Wouldn't it be great if we just even got $100,000 out of one of these grants, let alone 5 or 10 or 15 million that we're asking for? But good luck with the great work you're doing. Keep it up. You too, Ellie. Keep up the great work. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, the deputy mayor.
Thank you. And I'll just follow up with, since the director mentioned the AMO briefs coming, it was, I think the more that there's opportunities to say, hey, we're doing this kind of investment here, you give somebody else an opportunity to, have you thought about this? Because I think one of these grants came out of somebody saying, hey, have you thought about exploring this from a tourism perspective and going that way? So it's good when there's opportunities always to just talk about it. I wanted to ask, the report says that the background about the Aquatics and Wellness Center, that it's been funded through, and it it says the legacy fund, but that's years into the future. And there's a reference to development charges too. We're not experiencing any difficulty with some of these grant applications because we have actually publicly said we've got the building paid for. That's not problematic, is it? You're able to work around that. And I know you're optimistic, so I hope you just say, yes, of course, we're working around that.
You could read my mind. Thank you for the question, but through you, Mr. Mayor, actually a lot of our conversations that we're having through the delegations and ministry staff are blown away by the financial plan that Saugeen Shores has to fund this. So it's not a deterrent. It's actually showing how financially responsible we are, and that's attractive to them. So I'm confident that that's helping us.
It's a very good answer. My other question, another part of the report had a construction project update, and I'm not going to ask the mayor to once again indicate when he intends to jump into a pool because it keeps getting extended a bit. But there is something in the report here that indicates that there's an expectation that the pool, full occupancy of the AWC, including the second level offices, is scheduled for fall 2025, so in about a year. I wanted to ask, we've approved a number of positions here. Have any of those positions actually been filled yet, or when is the anticipated start for the staffing complement that council was asked to upload much in advance of when the building was actually going to be finished? Thank you.
Sure. And thank you for the question. And at the time of writing this report, we are on target for opening in the fall of 2025. As for the staffing positions, one position, which is the facility maintenance supervisor, that position has been filled as it was outlined in the transition plan. There was a few other positions that were planned to, sorry that I don't have this information right in front of me, but they were planned to hire to start work in the fall, and we have postponed those positions slightly.
Thank you. And again, great report. I'm a member of a couple of service clubs, and I know we've received requests because they're being vetted through the club. So I'm sure that must have come from you. So good luck with the campaign.
Thank you, Councilor Davinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, most of my questions have been answered, but I think this one perhaps is for Kristen, because it's the construction project update. And people may not realize, I had to force myself to look it up and see what it was. The installation of the CLT wood roof panels, CLT. Easy question.
Thank you for that, for the question. It's actually the wood panels that will be, it's the roof membrane over top of the steel structure on the natatorium side. So on the northern side of the building, the very large beams that went up with the couple of cranes. So that roof complement or makeup ceiling is the wood tile that you'll see below it. And then there's insulation panels and the roof structure above that.
Okay, so this isn't outside. CLT is not outside.
No, that would be the
Yeah.
entire, the interior finish would be just over top of the beams that you see outside there. And then there'll be several layers of the roofing and then the membrane itself or steel roofing.
Okay, thank you both for your presentations. And as I said, Mr. Mayor, my questions have been answered.
Okay, thank you. Are there further questions or comments? I don't see any. I'll just reiterate, thank you, Allison, and thank you, Strides, for all the work that you guys are doing. As I had the chance a couple weeks ago, I guess now, to go with Strides and Kara and Steve Hardy and take a walk around the facility now as it's under construction. And it's pretty impressive when you get inside it and the scale of it. And it's really, I mean, it's a pretty state-of-the-art facility, like the just on the technical side of it in terms of some of the equipment required to run it and the air exchange and all the things that are being put in to make sure not only that it's a great and a good looking facility, but a facility that's going to last for a long time, that's going to be comfortable to be in. I know these are things we're not entirely used to in Saugeen Shores with a pool. Our current pool is not all that comfortable a spot to be, kind of an icky spot because it doesn't really have all those modern pieces of equipment. But this is really a big chunk of this investment is in making sure that we have a good facility that lasts for decades and decades to come. This is not the kind of project we're going to be doing again anytime soon. So it's good to know that, and it was good to see that the investment makes sense. And I think for folks out there who are thinking about adding money to the fundraising campaign, and I hope they do consider that, they should know that they're investing in a high quality facility that is going to be there for their children and their grandchildren, and maybe in some cases their great grandchildren. It's going to be a long standing facility that's going to serve our community well into the latter parts of this century. So a great, of all the things you might contribute to, it's one that certainly is worth doing that for. So anyway, thank you guys, and I know you'll be successful with the campaign. So you've heard the recommendation. I'll ask all in favor. That's carried. So our final report is 8.2.3, the 2024 AMO delegation recap, and we have manager strategic initiatives. Oh, turn that on there, Jill. Is it working? Nope.
No.
Yeah, we
There
got
we
you.
go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. The report in front of you details the activity that we entertained during our couple days in Ottawa. We held 7 different meetings, 4 provincial, 2 federal, and then 1 with OMA. So there you have it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Microphone is really giving trouble.
Thank you with it.
So there's a recommendation that the council receive the 2024 AMO delegation recap report for information. Are there questions? The Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. And through you, just for a little more information, Jill, the one that went to the Ministry of Health, you mentioned that one of the asks related to support related to a family health team model being implemented here. And the response that you received, as I read through it, the parliamentary assistant noted that priority for funding of the OI or EOI submissions in 2023 was based on community attainment rates, number of people directly connected to primary care. Do we score high in that category? I'm not too sure what that actually means, but are we in good shape with that kind of a priority, or are we being discounted because of some things that are related to our local situation? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the question. What that means is that I'm going to say this with a grain of salt, but currently, when the province looks at it, in comparison to some of the other communities that did receive funding, we don't have enough people that are orphaned, that don't have a doctor to give us the funding. So that's.
And the information that's here, I know AMO was after a few retirements. So there are 12 family physicians here and 3 nurse practitioners currently practicing here. That's correct, right?
Yeah. So
Okay, thank you. A lot of people don't realize that there's 12 doctors here, so I appreciated seeing that in print. Thank you.
yeah, for you, Mr. Ray. Sorry, there's 14, I think. Yeah, 14. And then I just wanted to clarify that we've got 2 full-time nurse practitioners, and then we have 1 additional coming and a half. They're still looking for a location to actually take on people.
Okay, why don't we go to Councillor Grace She was one of the folks who was leading these delegations. Councilor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't really leading them, but I was there and I can say
Oh, you were leading them. You were leading.
that Jill, first of all, did an absolutely fantastic job of putting together our packages. And I remember standing, talking to Kara while we were waiting to get an Uber because we had so many delegations that we had to split up into two groups. Kara and I ended up going to two presentations with federal representatives, one in the office of the Prime Minister, and in the office of the Prime Minister, and one in the Federal Economic Development Office for, I think, Southwestern Ontario. Anyway, I said to Kara, you know, this is so well organized. And the addition of Wellington Dumont, I can testify that the two representatives, Lily and I'm trying to remember the name of the other young woman, but they were with us. They helped. They had meetings with us beforehand. They supplemented the materials that Jill prepared, and they actually went to the meetings with Kara and I, to the federal representatives, and advised us on different strategies and things like that. You know, I said to Kara, I can't imagine that many other municipalities prepare this intensively and this well for these presentations. So if we don't get grants, it won't be for lack of trying and for the in-depth preparation that Jill and our staff put into this. Just to go back to the question about the grant, the meeting with at the office of the Prime Minister was with Zachary Nixon, who's the Ontario Regional Advisor in the office. And so Kara and I had a meeting with him specifically to talk about the grant for the Green and Inclusive Community Building Fund. And that was the one where the initial application was rejected because of a technicality in the use of one word considered to be too tentative. And so he gave us advice, and I understand that staff is going to be reapplying for that this fall. And so I do feel optimistic about that. And again, I just want to say, I know I'll let Bud speak to it as well, because he was involved in the presentation of several of these too, that we were very well represented by our staff and our consultants in Ottawa. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Halpin.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. I would just like to add to that, I felt very hopeful about the delegation that we had with Minister Ford concerning the cemetery. And we were able to, you know, it was one of his staff members said, oh, this is the third time you guys have been here. And we were able to tell him, you told us to come back with a plan. We came back with a plan. And I feel very, very confident about that delegation. And the one with the Minister of Sport as well went quite well. His staff was nodding their head and making many notes, so I feel optimistic about that. I know that the people we hired, Wellington DuPont, they did a good job. But I just want to say, I think it's a shame that we have to take taxpayers' money and hire consultants to get us access to the government. Like, there's something just not right in that system, that we have to hire, takes taxpayer money to hire a consultant to get us to talk to the Prime Minister's office, or to get us into these ministers' office. And do I have an answer for that? No, but I'm very disappointed that that has to happen. We should have better access to our government just in the fact that we're a municipal government. So, thank you.
Thank you. The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I just wanted to thank you, Jill, again. And I had the opportunity 2 years ago to go to AMO, and you had your packages you put together are just superb. It makes our job really a whole lot easier. So thank you for all the great work you do, and Councillor Halpin and Councillor Grace for all the great work you do too, and making those presentations. I know is you make the presentations to the ministers and deputy ministers, and they nod their heads. And you wonder if they're listening, and how much success we have. And I just I walk out of some of the meetings and go, did they really hear us or not? But you like to think they have. But the Office of the Federal Economic Development Agency, Southern Ontario, and you talk to the Office of the Prime Minister, which is great. And the Housing Accelerator Fund, Jill, there's a report on tonight later is a resolution from it's from the Township of Peely, and they're frustrated like we are sometimes with lack of funding that comes forth, to Saugeen Shores. And there was what's the number? $1.36 billion was allocated to the Housing Accelerator Fund with first intake. And I guess my question is, and of that amount, 1.36 billion in this resolution, 0.02, $1.9 million went to rural Ontario. $1.9 million, and the rest went to urban. Toronto got a substantial amount. Big cities. So it's frustration on my part that rural Ontario continues to be overlooked. But in this next intake, Jill, when you were talking to the Prime Minister's office and the economic development, when you talked about they recommended you reapply for the second phase, was there talk about that is rural Ontario finally going to be considered for some funding? We talk about the Wellness Center. The rural Ontario continues to be forgotten about, and it's just, to me, it's just not right. They don't know about us up here sometimes. They look at the big cities where the votes are, where they get elected. But was there any talk about with the second intake with the accelerator fund that we potentially could now be looking at rural Ontario being funded? Was there any talk about that?
Councillor Grace?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can try to answer that question. Kara and I were in that meeting. Our approach for the Housing Accelerator Fund grant was to talk about how unique this program was, really unprecedented in its design. And so that was basically what we were trying to underline with them, that if this was granted, this would be the first municipality in Ontario, maybe in Canada, to put forward this design of funds. So, of course, we also emphasize the fact that our area is growing, the economic development that's tied in with Bruce Power, and also the fact that we tied in, again, the recreational center, and the fact that we have neighbors with Saugeen First Nation, and that we are trying to develop a cooperative, and we are developing cooperative and collaborative partnerships with them too. So all of those things we talked about in that meeting. We didn't so much, focus on the rural perspective. That was our approach.
Thank you for that. And just as a follow-up, Mr. Mayor, if I could, and thank you for that, Cheryl. It's a great explanation, and hopefully they will consider rural Ontario this time around. But probably a question maybe of Jay, I'm not sure, but the Housing Accelerator Fund, when is the second intake? When are we eligible to apply? Do we know the amount we're applying for yet? And when will we hear back? Because it was a great proposal Jay had months ago for the first leg of the Housing Accelerator Fund, and I still think it's very viable.
Looks like the manager of strategic initiatives.
For you, Mr. Mayor, the second application was submitted on February 13th. It was already submitted. Yeah.
February.
Sorry.
Yeah.
September.
No.
Sorry, I have a cold.
No, it has not. It's okay.
In my brain.
So it's September 13th.
Ago, we submitted the second application
know,
for
we-
the Housing Accelerator Fund.
Do we know what that amount was for and when will we hear?
Just over 4 million.
And we'll hear, well, how long does it take, Jill?
I don't know.
3-4 months, 3 or 4 months.
It'll be a little while.
Okay, well, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Grace, did you have another comment? No? Further comments or questions from members? I think, oh, Councilor Davinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm looking at item number 1, Jill. The Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism is where we asked for $800,000 to help with remediation of the Pioneer Cemetery. That ministry is going through a change. I'm sure you know. Michael Ford has informed the Premier that he's on a leave of absence and has left the ministry. I wonder if we should be, I don't even know if they've named somebody in Mr. Ford's place, but I wonder if we should be getting ready to prepare a fact sheet of some sort. I know the staff will bring them up to date eventually, but if we sent something specifically that was easy to read in bullet form with a couple of pictures, if that might help us. I just throw it out there for consideration.
You, Mr. Mayor, thank you for that advice. I'll certainly take it into account. We, one of the things that we make sure we do when we go into delegations is get the names of staff, because they're usually the minister will, suggest a certain avenue for us to take. And it's usually that we work with staff. So we'll follow up with staff in that ministry.
And one of the important things to remember too with Wellington DuPont's involvement is that we're no longer sort of beholden to these sort of 2 touch points a year, AMO and Roma, to be in touch with these ministries. Our staff now is in contact and meeting with staff in various ministries on all of these issues on an ongoing basis. So I'm sure I'm certain there's more opportunities coming up for staff to be in touch with the new minister and their staff to advance these things just on an ongoing basis. So, but it's a good note, and we should continue to be in touch with everybody that we can on these issues. If there's nothing further, I just wanted to, on 2 of them, one, that I was a little disappointed with the apparent response from Minister Surma on the fiber optic question. I think we should really keep banging the drum on that because it's really important, and it's kind of going under the radar a little bit, that as ASIP proceeds in Ontario, much, if not all, of Saugeen Township is scheduled or planned to be serviced with wireless broadband, and that is an inferior technology, and the folks in Saugeen Township they'll have good service to begin probably, and then as the internet service providers subscribe more and more people, their service will slow down to the point where it isn't very good service at all that they'll be getting. They need buried fiber, and there's no reason we shouldn't have it in Saugeen Township. And we should continue. We'll add that to the list at Roma, but also on an ongoing basis, we should really be pushing on that as much as we possibly can while the ASIP program is still underway. And on the housing accelerator, it was good to hear the application is in and the lobbying continues on that. I think the key thing to highlight is the innovative, as I think Councilor Grace well put, the innovative nature of what we're proposing. There have been rural grants given in part of phase 1, but I was reading about one in a community in Saskatchewan. I was just looking at it here because I saw the news article where they got money from the housing accelerator, and what they're doing with it is giving $30,000 to anybody who's building a home. I mean, just handing out federal cash. Here's, you're going to build a house, take $30,000, and then for every additional door, $8,000. Like we have, so what the feds will get is however many houses their money buys divided by $30,000, which is probably not that much. And here we are proposing a concept to reimagine how land use planning is done in our community and potentially for other communities that could make it easy for in perpetuity to build affordable housing. And so to me, and I don't want to rub too much or cast aspersions on other municipalities, and they can do more power to them. God bless them. But, you know, I think the feds should be looking at innovative solutions that try to solve this problem as comprehensively as possible for as long as possible, to put their money to work on a bigger solution, because it requires a big solution. And if we just try to hand out cash to everybody building a house, the feds are quickly going to run out of money, which is hard to believe because the feds seem to have unending amounts of money, or they can borrow unending amounts of money or print it. But even they can't print enough to build all the housing we need. So we're going to have to do better than that. Oh, sorry, Councillor Stack. I'm sorry, Councillor Stack. I can't see you. So take it away, Councillor Stack.
Yeah, can you hear me? Sorry, I'm in a hotel lobby. I just wanted to comment. We've provided a lot of, it sounds like quite a bit of critique to the federal government, which I understand, but I think I'll just raise the point I've raised several times, that a lot of our issues are Ontario-based issues, and that level of government needs to be held equally accountable. So I just want to raise, like, I think absolutely the federal government needs to be held accountable, but just in the interest of fairness between both levels of government, I think we've seen a pretty significant failure on both levels of government to provide our municipality with sufficient support. I've raised the issues around the healthcare system several times, and that is strictly a provincial issue for the most part. So I just want to ensure that if we're going to critique one level of government, we critique both levels of government, particularly given that at the provincial and federal level, we're a conservative held riding. And I think we've seen a real challenge from both our representatives to provide sufficient representation and sort of support for the interests of our community. So I just think it's important to raise that both levels of government need to improve how they're supporting our community in particular. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. If there's nothing further then, you've heard the recommendation, and I'll ask all in favor. That's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're on to 8.4, communications and petitions for the committee. There's 7 items there. Anybody wish to speak to any of them? The deputy mayor and then the vice deputy mayor.
There are 2, 8.4.6. I'm about to lose power on my laptop, so it's related to supporting review and I think a better representation of content in the Municipal Elections Act. It seems timely that there be a consolidation of information in one place that reflects the significance of elections, but also inspires that there is legitimacy and all that kind of good stuff associated with elections in Ontario. So I think we should support that one, which basically is just, I can't remember the community involved, but they're saying that there's 3 different places you have to look for elections information, and it's time for the province to just take a good look and update the Municipal Elections Act.
Okay, so the deputy mayor moves support for the resolution from the township of Russell regarding AMCTO provincial updates to Municipal Elections Act resolution. Is there a seconder for the resolution? Seconded by Councillor Halpin. Is there any further discussion to the resolution? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Further, another one, the deputy mayor.
And the second one, that 8.4.5 is asking for support related to small rural communities not receiving a fair piece of the pie. And it's specific to communities, small rural seems to be communities less than 10,000 population. We're not in that category, but perhaps there might be an interest from our council to do our own resolution related to the next category up of rural municipalities to suggest the very same thing. Thank you.
Okay, so are you looking to move that resolution, or would you just like to draft a different resolution?
Well, the resolution that's there, it doesn't really, we can't relate to that specifically because we're in a slightly larger population. So perhaps I'll follow up with a couple of members of council, and we'll submit something over the next little while that brings our population category into the mix. Thank you.
Good enough. The vice deputy mayor.
It was 8.4.5, just what our deputy mayor spoke to, and I support that, and there's a couple of clauses in there. It's a long resolution, and it does talk about 10,000 and under population, but talks about whereas it apparent that both the federal and Ontario governments have neglected to recognize the needs of small and rural Ontario. The small rural municipalities are not overlooked and disregarded on future applications for funding. It's exactly what we were speaking to earlier. So I support this, but I can go with, and I'd help draft the resolution with our deputy mayor if we're talking about say under 20,000, because I think it's that important. Because what they're talking about is that the federal and provincial governments immediately commission a working group to develop a plan on how to deal with the impending debt dilemma that we're faced with rural Ontario, that we're given attention to as well. And I know they do. I mean, we've been funded with health, long-term care facilities and so on and so forth, but there's a whole lot of other recreational type things that are not being funded. So I would support the resolution from our deputy mayor and help draft that new resolution.
Okay, thank you. Are there further comments on any of these communications or petitions? Seeing none, then we're on to the end of the agenda, and we'll take statements by members and the deputy mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a couple here. I wanted to mention a couple of things that came from the police service. Andy Evans, Sergeant Andy Evans, who's one of the 2 media officers for the Saugeen Shores Police. Last week, I was very honored to present him with a 20-year exemplary service medal. It's a Governor General's medal. It's a national recognition situation. He's the second one that I've, Jeremy Mighton, Inspector Jeremy Mighton received one not that long ago too. And Andy Evans is a very deserving candidate, and he was genuinely surprised when he got called up to receive the award. So it's a Governor General's Exemplary Service Medal. We also had a ceremony, a celebration at the police station to welcome all the new quote unquote recruits who've recently joined the Saugeen Shores Police Service. There are 3 new experienced officers who started over the summer. One came from Peel, one from Waterloo, and one from Halton region. They bring incredible experience with them that is inspiring, and it also will definitely enhance our abilities to address a number of emerging issues in our community. We have 4 new auxiliary constables mentioned too, or introduced too, and they've already started working. You'll see a couple of them out at Pumpkin Fest if you're around and about for that. There's a new police exhibit going to be part of that where you can wear some goggles, which will simulate when you've had a few drinks. So it might be a very entertaining experience to participate in that if you're in the area where the police display is. The other new staff member introduced was a support services staff member. She also comes to the Saugeen Shores Police Service with experience, so that's a good addition to the station as well. Just a couple of other things. I wanted to mention that I attended a showing of a TIFF film at the museum last Thursday night. It's one of 3 that are planned for this fall. The theater was almost full, and for people who don't think there's anything going on in our community, it certainly was, sort of an opportunity to see a film that wouldn't hit the galaxy known sound, or perhaps even come up on a streaming service. It was called Les Filles au Roy, but there's 2 more coming up, and the next one, also the 2 people that are organizing this are bringing in one of the actors from the film, so that'll be very interesting. It's at the Bruce County Museum. Also at the museum this week, starting today, they have some webinar talks and opportunities for people to get together to reflect on some topics associated with truth and reconciliation. It's Truth and Reconciliation Week this week. These talks are at 1 o'clock. They're for about an hour. I'm signed up to go on Tuesday and Friday. The topic tomorrow is allyship and confronting unconscious bias. The Wednesday topic is impacts and addressing Indigenous identity fraud. The Thursday topic is related to the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And Fridays, which I'm also planning to attend, is how to address barriers to reconciliation. They're about an hour. They're in the theater. There'll be a presenter and then an opportunity for discussion. And the third thing that I'll mention is I think the Vice Deputy Mayor just said something about we received some funding related to long-term care. And I happen to have somebody in the car with me today who's a resident at Hampton Court, and she asked me about what was going on at the care center. Her husband had lived there for a while. He's no longer with us, but so we drove by, and if you haven't driven by the care center in Southampton, it's incredible to see the progress on the development. It looks big as you come up Spence Street, but then when you turn on to Grenville across the top, it's like, whoa, it definitely is going to be a very striking building in that neighborhood. And there's brick going up on the building on the outside. There's windows being installed. I don't know what their planned timeline is, but it certainly will be a welcome addition to the community. And once that gets done, of course, the existing building will get knocked down and they'll start work on this phase 2, which is the apartment building. But it was very good to see the work, the progress today when we drove by. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to throw just two things. Congratulations to the U11 girls fastball team coached by Steph Carr, and just a wonderful season they had, and went off out of town and won a provincial championship. And it's just a major accomplishment. I know they've been recognized recently, I believe, but it's just a great feat. It's not an easy thing to win a provincial championship. So congratulations to Steph Carr and the U11 girls. There was I didn't get to this event, but I just wanted to mention it. Just give me one sec. And Miles McConnell from Tampa, Florida, and runner-up from England. I just want to congratulate Ken Dunlop and all of the well over 100 volunteers who worked so hard with the Senior Men's Amateur Championship, Golf Championship, Saugeen Golf Club this past weekend. And the reviews I read, and I really wish I had been able to get to it, but I was away at the time. But the reviews I read about Saugeen Golf Club and this community and the volunteers and the way they rolled out the red carpet for these golfers around the world, the accolades, the reviews were just superb. And I guess Saugeen Golf Club's never been in such great shape. It's just true perfection. And I just want to again congratulate Ken Dunlop and the manager out there and all the volunteers for a job well done. That was a great event for Saugeen Shores and a lot of spectators. So congrats.
Thank you. And we will be seeing those U11 girls here in October, I believe. Councilor Grace.
Nothing tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Davinsky.
Nothing for me as well, Mr. Mayor.
Nothing from Councilor Mayette. Councilor Halpin, no. Councilor Duhaime, no. Councilor Stack, do you have anything?
Yeah, thanks. Just a quick comment. I was out for a run maybe a week ago on one of the cottage streets, and I noticed a resident opted not to share the road and came quite close to me. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to just remind residents that as we're talking about cottage streets and there's a lot of objections to curbs, gutters, and sidewalks, that I think part of the responsibility we have as town residents is to make sure we're sharing the road with runners and bikers, particularly if we're talking about not putting in sidewalks, because there's a heritage component there, which I sort of can appreciate. But I just want to remind folks that the road is meant for everybody, and that we have to be careful that when people are biking, running, and walking, they're afforded the space where it's safe to do so, to not get too close to a vehicle for no real reason. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of things from me to follow up on the Vice Deputy Mayor's comments. I was at the Senior Men's Golf Championship event. I went to the opening ceremonies and also was at the Friday evening event there. And I think the Vice Deputy Mayor put it quite correctly. There was a lot of really positive comments that I was there about the course and the community and all the volunteers. Over 200 volunteers put that event on. And it's amazing to me. You look at that event and you look at the tankard events that we had a couple of years ago. A lot of the same people were volunteers, but amazing. Like one thing you hear when events like that happen in Saugeen Shores is just the sheer number of volunteers and the amount of effort that we are able to put into events like that, which is unique, at least from what I'm told by people who attend many of these events. It's for a community our size. I believe this is the smallest community that's ever hosted that senior men's event. And the fact that we were able to do that and actually stand up a bigger army of volunteers than most large communities to do it is, I mean, a testament to everybody, to the club itself, but also to the community. So I wanted to congratulate them. And that's later that same night, I attended a meeting of the CFUW Southport on the occasion of their 35th anniversary. And I was really pleased to be there. And I learned a lot about CFUW, things I really wasn't aware of with CFUW. And one of the very best things about being mayor is you get invited to go to things that you would not, under any other circumstance, get invited to go to. In a meeting of CFUW, a guy like me doesn't very often get to attend. So it was really great. And I just wanted to congratulate CFUW on 35 years. Really, that's a really tremendous organization, one that kind of pops up a couple of times a year and does some important events, but has this really important presence in our community 24/7, 365. So I wanted to congratulate them. So with that, that's the end of the committee of the whole. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn, moved by the Vice Deputy Mayor, second by the Deputy Mayor. All in favor? Committee stands adjourned. Council will convene at 9 o'clock. All right, everybody, I think we're going to bring this thing back together here. So let's take our seats. Okay, I'd like to call to order this regular council meeting of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores for Monday, September 23rd, 2024. Second item on the agenda is disclosures of pecuniary interest. Ask any member if you have one of those at this time. Seeing none, of course, you can declare one of those anytime if you need to. No additions, deletions, or amendments. We do have a set of minutes. Item 4.1, the resolution is the council adopt the minutes of the regular council meetings of August 26, 2024 and September 9, 2024, and note and file the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of September 9, 2024 as presented. Is there a mover and seconder? Councillor Mayette, Councillor Duhaime, any questions or comments? The deputy mayor?
Thank you. One question about the committee of the whole minutes from September. There is an item there that it just slims down some content from our agenda that says about a transfer of $350,000 in savings from the Hemlock and Chesley Street road projects. It doesn't go on to say where it's going. I've had some questions from the public. Those were the funds that were sort of shifted over to be for Carlisle, right?
I believe that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Because the minutes don't reflect that. They just show that the savings were there. Because somebody asked me, why Carlisle? And I said, well, because we had these savings. I also wanted to just point out in the minutes from regular council, which was from the August meeting, the minutes reflect that we basically had a very robust discussion about the bylaw amendments and the update to the official plan. And there was a suggestion in there that there was concern about the length of the bylaw amendments and the OP. I don't think it was really about the length of those documents. It was about the volume that we received in a short period of time to digest. So the documents can be as long as they want to be, but that wasn't really what the conversation was about. But that's just a interpretation comment. Thank you very much.
Okay, any further comments or questions about the minutes? Seeing none, then all in favor? That's carried. All right, now we're on to close to public. And it's recommended the council enter into a closed public session to discuss a proposed disposition of land by the municipality for town-owned lands at concession 10. The resolution is the council move into a closed to public session in accordance with the Municipal Act 2001, Section 2392C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Halpin, seconded by Davinsky. All in favor? That is carried. Council will now proceed into a closed public session. Okay, I'd like to, we're going to arise now from closed session, and I have a resolution that council arise from closed to public session and resume the regular council meeting. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Duhame, seconded by Grace. All in favor? That is carried. And arising from closed, I can report that council adopted the closed to public meeting minutes and that we gave direction to staff with regard to the proposed disposition of land by the municipality for town-owned lands at concession 10. All right, so now we're on to item 8, reports of the committee of the whole. There's the first one, committee report, Q2 variance to budget, revised connecting links, projects, road capital projects. And there's a resolution that council received the 2024 second quarter variance to budget report for information, that council approved the revised connecting links projects multi-year plan supporting applications for funding intake 10, 2025-2026 for the following 2 projects. 1, resurfacing Highway 21 from South Street to Craig Street, Southampton section. 2, Turner Street, Bruce Road 13, and Highway 21 intersection improvements project, and the council approved funding of $499,900 for the municipal contribution component, 10% for 2025 to 2026 connecting links intake 10 plan projects, and the council authorized the clerk and the mayor to sign the funding agreements for connecting links 2025 to 2026 intake 10 if approved by the ministry. 3, the council approve a funding transfer of $350,000 to the 2024 asphalt resurfacing project from savings on the Hemlock Street project and the Chesley Street project. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Grace, seconded by the deputy mayor. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Now we're on to 8.2, committee report, underserviced cellular communication services in rural and urban centers. Recommendation or resolution, I should say, is that council endorse the resolution from the town of Plimpton, Wyoming regarding underserviced cellular communication services in rural and urban centers, and that this resolution be circulated to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Canada, Melanie Joly, Minister of Export Promotion, International Trade and Economic Development of Canada, Mary Ng, Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry of Canada, Francois Philippe Champagne, Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada Premier Doug Ford, MP Ben Lobb, MPP Lisa Thompson. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Davinsky, seconded by Halpin. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Next is 8.3, committee report on public sector salary disclosure. The resolution is that council endorse the resolution from the Township of Sterling Rawdon regarding public sector salary disclosure, and that this resolution be circulated to Premier Doug Ford, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Paul Calandra, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and MPP Lisa Thompson. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Halpin, seconded by Vice Deputy Mayor. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. All right, so now we're on to reports of municipal officers and committees. And we have the Municipal Innovation Council Smart Beach Project. The resolution is that council authorize the Chief Administrative Officer to negotiate an agreement with the Municipal Innovation Council for the town of Saugeen Shores to participate in phases 4 to 6 of the Smart Beach Project. Is there a mover and seconder? The Deputy Mayor, Councilor Grace. Are there questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. All right, next we have a striking committee report on the 2025 council calendar. The resolution is that council approve the 2025 council calendar. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Davinsky, seconded by Halpin. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Then we're on to the confirmatory bylaw. Resolution is the bylaw 78, 2024, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the town of Saugeen Shores. It's hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 23rd day of September 2024. Is there a mover and seconder? Halpin and the deputy mayor, all in favor? And that is carried. And finally, that this regular council meeting of September 23rd, 2024 hereby adjourns at 10:05 p.m. Is there a mover and seconder? The deputy mayor, Duhame, all in favor? Council stands adjourned. Have a good evening, everybody.